All right, guys, so I had been putting this off for a long while. I had debated what way I was going to do this. I didn't know how many films I wanted to watch before I did this list. I know this is coming kind of late. This is mid-February, but I always like to make sure I see all the big titles of 2019. Now, I had seen everything about a week ago or a week and a half ago, so I've been meaning to do this for a little while, but I couldn't decide on if I was doing a top 20, a top 25, because last year I did a top 25, and that was a difficult list for me to make, as these always are, of course. But I just decided to go with a top 10 because I wanted to make it just like the real important titles. There's plenty of honorable mentions I could get into, things that didn't make the list that absolutely would have made the top 20, no doubt about it. Some big surprises of the year, like an Escape Room, which I really enjoyed and was not expecting much from that, or another film like It Chapter 2, which I feel like was really panned hard by a lot of people, and I just don't feel like it was warranted. Now, granted, it didn't make my top 10, so I guess you could see that as a bit of a disappointment, but I still really enjoyed the hell out of that movie, and I had it on the list until I remembered one more movie that kind of knocked it off, and I was like, oh, and I kind of fought back and forth. So it was like right there. I feel like it would probably be in like that 11th spot for that. But what I really wanted to do with this list is I had to sit down and be completely honest with myself, because like I really kind of just took the films that had the biggest impression on me when I watched them. Like there's a lot of films that came out last year that I really dug the hell out of, that I just felt like they were good, like A Ready or Not, where I really enjoyed it, but when I walked out of the theater, it didn't wow me in a certain way. There wasn't anything new to take away from it for me. There were super fun moments, and Samara Weaving is a fucking goddess. Like, I just love this chick, and anything she's in, I'm gonna be there. You know, Opening Day, she's kind of one of my go-to leading ladies now. So I adore her. I really love where the ending went. There were some really fun moments in it. But while I was watching it, I wasn't as engaged. And that is really what it came down to for me. Like, what truly engaged me? Like, what really had my attention the entire time, and I could not wait to see what was next. So, that all being said, I always get shit in the comments like, why doesn't this guy ever get to the list? I know I have to mention that every time, but fucking hey, do I hear it enough. It's like, Jesus Christ, you don't want to hear any of my thoughts? Like, this is my honorable mention section. There was good. It was not as good as 2018. It just wasn't. 2018 for me was one of the best years of horror ever. I loved 2018. Like, my top 6 or so were films that I just thought were all fucking unbelievable films. Like, just fantastic. And my number 1 of last year is probably my favorite horror movie. Is my favorite horror movie of the entire decade. So 2018 really had some strong heavy hitters. And number 2 was even like in my top 5, if not my top 3 favorites of the decade as well. So it was an unbelievable year for horror. This one, very, very good. Very, very good, but just not as strong. That's okay though. Like, you don't always have to be the best of the best to be good, right? So anyways, let's start with number 10. And this is a film, guys, I don't even know why I would even need to say this, but I feel like this is that thing to say with lists. Film is subjective. This is opinions. I'm not telling anyone what to believe or their opinion's this or that. Like, this is my opinion. These are the films, and you'll disagree with some of the films on here. This is going to be one of them. I've heard a lot of people say they didn't like this movie, hated this movie. I actually had someone comment on it very recently. I did a review on this a while ago, and someone told me, I do not believe you liked this movie. I thought it was so horrible that I do not understand how you enjoyed this movie. I did. And I did so much that I put it on the list. And that number 10 is Head Count. and that is currently streaming on Netflix, I think. This is a film I knew nothing about at all until Perry Nemiroff from Collider mentioned she had seen it at some festival and was like, look out for this one. And it was on VOD very, very shortly thereafter. And I trust what Perry says a lot of the times. I really do like her. And so I was like, screw it. And I threw it on, and I was completely engaged the entire time. Super simplistic, but for me, excellent execution. Truly. Like, I was just engaged from beginning to end. I really wanted to know. The mystery had me so intrigued, had me so invested. I was like, what the hell is happening here? This is a film that I recommend going into completely blind, like I did, because that's just the way to go. Because when things started to happen, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it's pretty much what I continued to keep saying all the way till the end. And even at the end, there are things left open to interpretation or whatnot, but that being said, I felt very satisfied. Even though there was open-ended questions and I didn't have all the answers, that's okay. I don't need them all. And there's a couple of films on this list just like that, where you can discuss this, you can debate it, you can go with your friends and really break down what you thought. And there's a way to make a film where that's fun, and then there's a way to make a film where that's not fun. And of course, that's going to be different for everybody. There's going to be movies. There's a movie on this list where a few of my friends felt strongly the opposite, where they thought everything was left open for interpretation, that there was no purpose to the movie at all, and we'll get to that film. But for me, it was just such a fun film to discuss, and that's what all of these are. All right, number 9 is Netflix original The Perfection. Man, I thought this was just a thrill ride. This was another film. I feel like you'll feel like this is a trend throughout, is either I'm like wildly entertained by how thrilling everything is and how fun and fast-paced and just how engaged I am with the more visceral side of things. And then there is the other side of things where I'm intellectually engaged, where I'm sitting there and I'm just trying to figure out what the hell is going on, the mystery, the intrigue of the mystery within what's going to happen next. If you have me in the what's going to happen next and you give me a strong enough payoff, like a movie like Coherence from a few years back, one of the best freaking sci-fi horror movies ever in my opinion, just when you have a film like that and you can just keep me guessing and keep me going and keep me completely invested, that's what The Perfection did. I just kept thinking I knew what was going on, and then something would happen, and I was completely lost on it. I haven't seen The Perfection. Fantastic film. 2 beautiful women as the leads, and it just goes all over the place. And I was completely bought in from beginning to end. Yeah, I'm not giving plot synopsises here because synopses, I think is the proper way to say it, because these, you can look into these. You can, if you want to go in blind, you want to trust my word, go in blind to these. If you don't know what they are, then maybe just check. And if you want to write a synopsis, IMDb's there for you. But there you go. So I'm not giving synopsis or synopses on these things. So we're going to move on, and we are going to go to number 8, and that is the movie Life Changer. This is a film that I covered on the podcast. It's a really beautiful film, but tragic as all hell. And I really did invest myself in the character or the characters. Not to give any plot synopsis, spoiler kind of things going on here, but the film, yet another one of these ones that just had me so invested. And it's a very low budget movie, which might lose some of the audience. Some people they can't look past that kind of stuff. Maybe they'll think the acting is a little rocky. I don't care. There's another movie on this list. I think it's the next one. Same thing. Low budget. There is questionable acting in it. But I don't care about that stuff. As long as the story's strong, as long as the intrigue is strong, as long as they, kind of end strong, this movie, the Life Changer, which I think is another Netflix movie. I think it even considers itself a Netflix original now, maybe? I don't know, but I saw it before it was on Netflix, and we covered it on the podcast in a full spoiler discussion. We all loved it. We were all super high on it. It was one of the first films I saw of 2019. It kicked it off to a nice, strong start. And another one that did that was my number 7. I think I saw it like the same week, so I was like riding a real high wave because I was coming off of an amazing 2018, riding right into 2019. And in January, I had seen Escape Room, I had seen Life Changer, and I then saw Dry Blood. Dry Blood really, really worked for me. As I said, Clint Carney, I want to say, is the writer and director. Man, another film I was insanely invested in. I was so confused and like, what the fuck is happening? And we did a podcast on this one as well. And we must have talked about this film for like an hour and a half straight, where I was just like, well, what does this mean? And what about this? And when you can get that level of discussion out of me, and when you can get that level of dissection out of me and my friends, I feel like you've succeeded. Even if I don't like the movie, breaking it down to that level, I think is impressive. And this film does pose so many questions, because at the end of it, I was like, so what was happening here? Was it this? Was it this? Was it this? And I felt like every one of those things, like, there was a strong case to be made for all of them. Like, did this start here? Was this because of that? Was this real? Was it not? Like, that kind of shit for me is just a home run. If you it kind of hit me on all levels. Yes, there are moments in the movie. The budget restricts the film from reaching its full potential, because you get what you work, you work with what you got. And they have some actors in this who, they kind of exceed their range a little bit, and it shows. And it can take you out of the movie at points, but I was so into the rest that I didn't really give a shit. And I've watched it a few times, and every time I'm just super into it. And yeah, Dry Blood. Really, 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 really into this one. All right, number 6. Another film. Holy shit, was I engaged. Holy shit the whole time. What, you want to talk about mystery, you want to talk about intrigue, you want to talk about, now this movie's style, but tons of substance as well for me. And that is, thank you to the guys at the Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast for even bringing this to my attention. I watched this in the last month, so I'm glad I watched this before I did this list. I was going to do it, but I wanted to make sure I saw stuff like this, and that is the Laplaces Demon. Holy shit, man. Super cool flick. Another went into completely blind. So happy that I did. Absolutely worth the $3 rental or whatever I had to pay for it. It was on Prime, but then it left Prime right before I watched it, and I was like, shit, I gotta pay for this. So glad I did. Love to support movies like this. It's black and white. It's very reminiscent of The Twilight Zone, if you're into that movie, or into that show, if you're into that kind of stuff. Kind of reminded me of something like The Similars from a few years back, if you're into Twilight Zone type stuff, and the Laplaces Demon, if you watch this. Also check out The Similars from a few years back as well. Excellent film. Would have made my top 10 of that year as well. But yeah, this was one of, like, I had a good string of films that I really enjoyed back to back that I watched at the end, and this is the only one that made it, but all the rest would have made the top 20. Like Daniel Isn't Real and Bliss and The Black Forest. Like, these were all films that I was just like, I really enjoyed them, but they just didn't, like, get me all the way. Like, as I said, top 20 for sure. If I made a top 20, like, 20 through 11, absolutely every one of these titles would have made that list. But we're sticking to the top 10, and now we're into the top 5. So black and white, lower budget, really different kind of film. I've never seen really much anything like it, and I absolutely recommend the shit out of. Obviously, I recommend everything on this list. All right, moving on to number 5, and this is now a film that's on the side of just pure fun. I saw this with my buddy Tony Crespo in theaters, and holy shit, man, was I absolutely just... I had a blast the entire time. It was a thrilling film from beginning to end, and that was Alexander Aja's Crawl. Holy shit, man. You want to talk about investment. I loved these characters, and I was so into them and their journey and wanted to see them survive. And oh man, I was in this fucking movie. Every single scene, the setups, the scares. You guys know what it is. It's a killer fucking alligator movie. But the best one, the best of the Crocs and the Gator movies, because I watched a ton of them in preparation for this, and it's far and away for me better than Rogue, better than freaking Blackwater, better than any of those damn movies. Man, Crawl, what a fantastic time. Just such a fun time. So obviously couldn't recommend it higher. All right, moving on to number 4. This is a film that, you know, a lot of people will be, they won't be surprised, because if they know my channel, they know me. They know how much I loved this movie, but a lot of people just make this out to be like it's some generic piece of shit, you know, Hollywood cash grab shit. I don't understand what they're talking about. I think this is a fantastic haunted house movie and a great character film, and that is Annabelle Comes Home. If you saw my review for it, I was super high on it. I've watched it since, again, to see, like, did it hold up? Absolutely. Loved the characters, loved where this went, loved the time that we spent with the Warrens, both the adult Warrens and, of course, the child Warren, who's the lead of this movie. Loved the side characters, loved all the, you know, the new gags that they had in the film, with introducing all sorts of spin-offs that they could go off within. The character, the friend of the babysitter who came over, and her whole story and all that stuff, I bought it all. I thought the wrap-ups at the end, how everything kind of came full circle. I feel like everyone got a proper send-off wrap-up. I just thought it was a fantastic film, and a great directorial debut by Darabont there. So, or Darabont, Dobman. I'm thinking of Frank Darabont. The guy who wrote It, and Doberman, whatever the hell his name is, Doberman, something like that. But yeah, I thought that was great, and I look forward to seeing whatever he does next. Moving on, but yeah, I don't know. I just saw so many people. I saw somebody say, like, if Annabelle is in your top, Annabelle Comes Home makes your list, then you have no credit. You know, you have no merit to you. You don't fucking know what you're talking about. You're a shit horror fan, whatever. Fine, I'm a shit horror fan. I don't give a fuck. I loved it. So I'm not going to say I didn't. All right, the top 3. This is where things got very, very difficult for me. And honestly, I feel like you could switch these 3 around all in any way you want, and I'd feel fine with all of them being anywhere. But I just stuck with my initial thought and was like, screw it, that's what I'm going with. And it's hard. I've watched 2 of these twice, and one of them only once. And that one I really, really want to watch before I made this list, but I still haven't gotten it in the mail because I'm waiting for the director's cut. But you can only get that overseas, and the shipping on that was forever, and it was expensive and whatever, but that's some bullshit. So these were the 3 most anticipated films of the year in the horror genre for me, because they come from the 3 best horror directors working right now. We got the 3 best horror directors in Hollywood or anywhere working, in my opinion, all releasing films this year. All of them I had ginormous high hopes for, and all 3 of them paid off wonderfully for me. So that was great. Unfortunately, Velvet Buzzsaw was the biggest disappointment of the year for me. That was the follow-up to Nightcrawler. I thought that was definitely going to be in my top 10. I thought it might be my favorite film of the year, and it's my biggest disappointment of the year. It wouldn't even make my top freaking 50. I think I watched what I watch? I watched like about 100. I want to say I watched 100 2019. I think it's like 98 or 99 or something. Really close to 100 this year on 2019 films. So, all right. So this is hard because you have Mike Flanagan, you have Ari Aster, and you have Robert Eggers. Those are the three best horror directors in Hollywood right now, in my opinion. And with them releasing films this year, I was very, very excited. I'll be nervous, of course, and we'll put number 3. This is a tough placement because, fuck, I just rewatched it, and I watched the director's cut, which is better. I highly recommend, if you didn't see the director's cut of Dr. Sleep, to make sure that you do so, because it is fabulous. Now, I know there's people who hate it. Whatever, that's true of any of these films. Yap, yap, yap. Not going to repeat myself too much more. But man, did Dr. Sleep work for me. Flanagan, yet again, proves that he is just the best. He's the best right now. He is the most consistent. Let's say that. He's the most consistent name in horror. He's made, 7 films and 1 television series, and I love it all. I love The Haunting of Hill House. I love Absentia, Oculus, Hush, Ouija Origin of Evil. You know, down the list as it goes. He just knocks it out of the park for me. Love the fucking dude. Dude can do no wrong. And he crushes. I mean, he took on one of the most daunting tasks imaginable. Make a sequel to not only one of the most beloved horror films of all time, and probably the most well-respected director that's ever lived, make a sequel to his film, but also try to appease the fans of the novels, because it's well known how much Stephen King hates Kubrick's adaptation, and he would like something a little more like his novel. So it was like, how do you blend the two? And man, I thought he did a beautiful job of blending them together. Yes, you're not going to please everybody. There's going to be fans of Kubrick's film that think it's too detached, and there's going to be fans of the book who think it's, you know, not strong enough to the source material. Whatever. For what he was tasked with, I think he did an incredible job. I'm putting it as number 3 for now. And the director's cut did add a whole lot to it for me. And I did read the book, so I did catch some things there. Next up is number 2. And of course, this will, of course, give away my number 1 when I say it, because you know what films Ari Aster and Robert Eggers made. But here you go. This is kind of a twofer here, so I'll just kind of do them back to back. So number 2, and this is why I wanted to watch this a second time, so that I could put this maybe as number 1, because fuck, man, the director's cut might sway me. We'll see. But for now, Midsommar makes it as number 2, and The Lighthouse is my favorite horror film of the year. Now, there will be people debate me on whether or not The Lighthouse is a horror movie. I say bullshit. I think it's a horror movie, absolutely. But I guess I can see where you're coming from. But yeah, Midsommar, Lighthouse. I don't know exactly what to say outside of the Midsommar is just a gorgeous film. Really, really hardcore shit at times. It just, yeah, I was completely invested the whole time. I loved the imagery. I loved, you know, where it was going. People say the opening has no point to the film and this and that. I'm like, I don't think you understand the ending at all if you don't get why the opening is in there. Like, I think you might need to go back and rewatch it to understand where this character is at towards the end of this movie. Or I don't want to give any spoilers, but you know what I'm saying if you've seen the movie. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic film. It honestly might jump up to number 1 after I watch the director's cut. Maybe I'll do, I'm not going to do an update version, but it absolutely has it. But I just did rewatch The Lighthouse, and I just love this movie. I love the performance. I think that's what it comes down to more than anything, is that it absolutely has the best performances of the year. Not that Florence Pugh doesn't give a fantastic performance in Midsommar. Not that Rebecca Ferguson isn't amazing as Rose the Hat. She's probably one of my favorite. She's probably my favorite villain of the year. If I had to give like awards out, I should have done that, but I forgot. So oh well. But there you go. There's some nods right there. But Willem Dafoe is my favorite actor of the year in the horror genre. His performance in this, The Lighthouse, is phenomenal. Just outrageously phenomenal. One of the best performances I've honestly ever seen. Some of his monologues were just jaw-dropping. They reminded me of the Robert Shaw USS Indianapolis kind of level of just pure, like, dazzlement. Like, I was sitting there like, whoa, like, this guy is acting his goddamn soul out in this movie. So, unreal stuff. Pattinson was equally fantastic. Just a fabulous performance from him. I really wish that people would let the Twilight thing go with not only him, but Kristen Stewart as well. I think they've both proven themselves to be great when given the right material. And yeah, just I was so into this movie. I love the characters. I love the dialogue. I love the banter. I love the isolation. I love it all. I love the style, the cinematography, the choices being made behind the camera, in front of the camera, the chemistry between Pattinson and Dafoe. I laughed a whole ton. I showed it to somebody and they were like just creeped out during sequences, laughing their ass off, and other points. Just an experience. And that's what I go to the movies for. I go to the movies for an experience. And The Lighthouse, as it sits right now, gave me the best overall experience. It gave me kind of a little bit of, it was like a sample platter for me. I got comedy, I got drama, I got, horror. I got it all. Like I kind of, and incredible performances. Just brilliant filmmaking. Robert Eggers has such an attention to detail. He is an incredible filmmaker, and we're so lucky to have him, Ari Aster, and Mike Flanagan, and Alexander Aja as well, and anyone else who directed any of these movies. Great job, guys. This was a very good year for horror. There you go. The top 10 list has been done. Good thing I didn't do a top 20 or 25. That shit would have been like an hour long like it was last year. So top 10 felt right. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll post like a top. No, I don't want to make another list, but I gave enough where I think you could make like a top 15 out of that. So I mentioned some other ones. I don't think I'm going to do any more off the top of my head because that's not fair. But there you go. Another year done. And I look forward to 2020. I hope there's some amazing films. I look forward to, of course, the new Saw, or as it's called, Spiral, from the Book of Saw. People have been asking my opinion on the trailer. Looks cool. Looks like a Saw, like a 7, which is kind of what the first one got compared to, likened to, equated to, whatever phrase you want to use there. That's kind of the roots of the franchise, and I'm excited to see it go back to that. I've had it with these motherfucking traps in this motherfucking room. That's, of course, a line I think people are expecting, with Chris Rock being intense. I don't know. I feel like comedians are all moving towards horror now. With Jordan Peele and John Krasinski, and like there's all these freaking, and of course Danny McBride, and like all these freaking comedic characters, guys are from The Office or from whatever. It's like Key and Peele, of course. They all seem to be moving towards horror, and they all seem to be doing pretty damn well in it. So I very much look forward to seeing what Chris Rock brings to the Saw franchise. They absolutely better stick to the canon and no reboots, no going around things. Anyways, but 2020 has tons and tons of exciting looking horror movies. I look forward to A Quiet Place 2, of course, and plenty of other titles, and we'll get to those as soon as they come out. So anyway, guys, so thank you for joining me through all of 2019. If you were there, if you're new to the channel, I look forward to covering 2020 with you guys. And let me know what your top 10 is. Of course, I'd love to see that. Maybe I missed some stuff. Maybe I can see them and be like, holy shit, why isn't this on the list? Or I can tell you your list is pure garbage and you don't know what you're talking about, like I'm sure I will get from some of you guys. Love you regardless. Adios.